this assembly of the People's National Movement. There are only 15 shopping days to Christmas, but there are just 6 crucial days to Election Day. My humble request to you tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is to forget the shopping for a while and concentrate, my dear friends, on the importance of your vote next Monday. The People's National Movement has offered the country the winning team. With your votes on Election Day, my dear friends, and the blessings of the Creator, all we must do now is to make sure to breast the tape ahead of the others. Let us therefore redouble our commitment and our efforts to ensure a PNM victory on Monday next week. Remember, the wise men say, on Election Day, vote the Balize. First speaker this evening is a native of Barataria. After graduating from St. George's College, she got married and proceeded to Dublin in Ireland to qualify as a medical doctor. She is the proud mother of 5 children and is regarded as one of Trinidad and Tobago's foremost community doctors. No wonder in 1987 she received an award from her alma mater, St. George's College, for outstanding achievement and meritorious service to the community. In 1985, she became actively involved in the drug rehabilitation program of the New Life Ministries as lecturer, doctor, and member of the board, and was awarded by them for voluntary services rendered. She has lectured throughout Trinidad and Tobago on drug addiction and drug rehabilitation. And ladies and gentlemen, she can boast of having joined the People's National Movement 36 years ago in 1956. And I can tell you, she has never been a member of any other political party in Trinidad and Tobago. Today, she has emerged in very quick time as a frontline speaker on this platform. Let us welcome to the microphone, ladies and gentlemen, the candidate for Barataria San Juan, our first speaker this evening, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Linda Baboolal.
Sorry for voting none of them. Somehow I believe I make Eric Williams cry. By getting traders on board will sink the ship with the tide. They're destroying our heritage, suppressing economic privilege, and on top of that, this taxing is sacrilege. But what really get me so vexed is when they sell out to IMF and the whole of the nation talking to the best. About them PNM, about them PNM, about them PNM, and it's mixed for Nana and them. We go vote them out, we go vote them out, we go vote them out. Like we stand up and shout, we go vote them out, we go vote them out. Who you voting for? PNM. Who you voting for? Who you voting for? Who you voting for? It's PNM. We go vote them out, we go vote them out, we go vote them out. Like we stand up and shout, we go vote them out, we go vote them out.
Mr. Chairman, members of the head table, members of the media, and the protective services who are present here tonight, my supporters, members of the PNM, observers of the opposite parties, ladies and gentlemen, Election day is 6 days away. The polls show that PNM is ahead, and I can assure you that PNM will stay ahead. They fooled you with one love, which was soon strangled to death. They rode on the backs of the other parties to get into power. And when they were there, they had no vision and they had no ideas. Because the NAR has shown complete lack of leadership and management. They have repeatedly lied to you about a turnaround in the economy. But more so, ladies and gentlemen, you in the Barataria San Juan constituency have had no representation for 5 years. Because when Mr. Butcher realized that he had no leadership in his party and there was the possibility of dictatorship, he took a side, leaving you, the people who voted for him, in the lurch. You have suffered. The infrastructure in this constituency, that's the roads and the drains and the lights, etc., have all fallen apart in the last 5 years. Lid, which we didn't see for 4.5 years, was started in the last 6 months in a hurry effort to fix some of the roads in an effort to buy your votes. So ladies and gentlemen, I see myself as your representative in the next PNM government as having to tackle every aspect of government in this constituency. Health destroyed after 3 health ministers is in chaos. Primary health care built up by the PNM over 30 years died through total frustration and the neglect of the last 5 years. In Barataria San Juan, the El Socorro Health Center was unfit for treating human beings. And it was only after I repeatedly mentioned it from my platform over the last 8 months that something is now being done. But recently, on visiting the temporary health center a little bit lower down from here, the nurse broke down and cried when she saw me. And she said, "Doctor, you don't know what we have had to go through." And I consoled her. And I told her, it's just a matter of time. And PNM will once more be in the saddle, ladies and gentlemen. PNM sees health as a priority. Healthy people make a productive workforce and produce capable leaders so that our nation will rise out of the economic morass into which it has sunken. The PNM intends to restore primary health by reorganization, decentralization, and greater community involvement, by providing emergency 24-hour centers so that you will have emergency care right here on your doorsteps. PNM will continue to upgrade our health centers and look at proper staffing and facilities. But added to this, ladies and gentlemen, my own desire is to see a mobile dental and eye examination unit to service the children in the schools of our constituency. Improved health and social services for our senior citizens, ladies and gentlemen. Many of them confined to their beds. So we need nurses and social workers to do home visits and home care of our lonely and bewildered senior citizens. And I also want to see the setting up of a senior citizen home in this constituency through self-help and through contributions from the businessmen, etc. But besides all this, we in this constituency will benefit from the wider national vision, which will look at proper administration of our hospitals and primary health care, which will examine the role of the Eric Williams Medical Science Complex with a view to integrating it into the public health services so that everyone can benefit from the facilities. And PNM will look at the National Health Insurance Scheme and plan it in such a way that everyone will benefit regardless of your earning power. Another issue which concerns us in the Barataria San Juan constituency is the agricultural and the industrial sector. PNM spearheaded development of what is now known as the coconut, as both an agricultural and an industrial area. Because history has shown that agricultural development is a prerequisite for industrial development. Many large companies in the coconut, such as Kaleidoscope, Glamour Girl, Amars, Doric, etc., flourished under the PNM. Agriculture, similarly, was subsidized by PNM in order to make chemicals, tools, and equipment more readily within the reach of the farmer. Nothing, ladies and gentlemen, has been done in the last 5 years to improve this area of our constituency. No new infrastructure has been laid down. Subsidies have been removed. 15% VAT added to all farming equipment, so that farmers throughout the country and our farmers in this constituency have suffered. PNM started dredging the Caroni River to stop the flooding in the coconut. This project has not been continued. So the PNM will have to start all over again. PNM will resume where we left off, and with the help of the engineering department of the Ministry of Agriculture, PNM will deal effectively with the flooding problem. Agriculture will benefit from the national policies which the PNM intends to put into place, because PNM sees agriculture as a generator of employment, of foreign exchange, and of food security. So the PNM will look at a national agricultural policy. PNM will look at a wider land distribution and a reduction in the price of agricultural land. PNM will upgrade agricultural infrastructure. PNM also recognizes that high technology is now needed in agriculture, and to this end, PNM will initiate scholarships for agricultural training and implement adult education classes to upgrade the skills and the knowledge of our farmers. Similarly, ladies and gentlemen, education has suffered in the Barataria San Juan constituency as throughout the country. Besides removing this book and the uniform grant, the school transportation and the school feeding programs, and adding VAT to school books, ladies and gentlemen, this government has failed to maintain the schools, so that schools in this constituency are in a terrible state of disrepair and a danger to your children. Recently, a principal took me through his school to show me the broken floorboards, the leaking roof, and the broken steps. Nothing having been done to improve these conditions, to make them safe for your children or conducive to studies. But they will come to you and they will boast about spending millions of dollars through the IADB loan, which was negotiated by the PNM before 1986, ladies and gentlemen, and which they have used to build inferior schools for our children, many of which still remain unusable due to the faults in construction. Education under the PNM was considered a right of every child. Education was emancipation and liberation. Under the NAR, education became a privilege. So children of poor parents have suffered. PNM intends to reverse every decision taken over the last 5 years, which has had the effect of denying equality of educational opportunities to the children of our country. PNM will review the common entrance exam and intends to set up a network with parents, teachers, students, businesses, and other organizations which can address problems of individual areas by quickly bringing these problems to the attention of the parliamentary representative, who in Barataria San Juan, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be your own faithful Dr. Baboolal. I want the PNM people in the crowd to remember that party groups will play an important part in getting attention for problems in your area. So I want you to look urgently at starting party groups in all areas of the constituency. But residents of Barataria San Juan, what has happened to our beloved Kwesi, which was once the pulse of the East-West corridor? The Kwesi has been killed, and we must see to its revival. I feel that we need to look at construction in the Kwesi. Our dear post office is in the same state it was when I was a child and needs to be upgraded. That pink elephant over there, which was built on the priority bus by the present administration, will be used by the PNM constructively and productively to liven up the Kwesi. We need to improve our fire services and to ensure the presence of an ambulance at all times. And we need to look at a continuing police presence in the Kwesi, either through mobile units or stationary center. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can be assured that as your representative, I will put my heart and my soul into providing for you the necessary facilities which would make life easier and which would modernize and revitalize this constituency. I may often have to call on you, the citizens, for your help and for your cooperation in order to realize our dream. The road will not be easy, ladies and gentlemen. But because you will have a caring PNM government in place, and because you will have proper representation, ladies and gentlemen, And because you all love Barataria Sanwan as much as I do, together we will aspire, together we will achieve what we desire for our constituency. So ladies and gentlemen, on Monday next, 6 days from today, on Monday the 16th of December, I want you to get up early. I want you to get to the polls early. And I want you to put your X against the Balize. Remember to say your prayers when you get up in the morning, ladies and gentlemen, and go with God to the polling stations. Do not be deterred. Do not let anyone terrify you. Go cool and calm. Don't let names confuse you, ladies and gentlemen. Look for your symbol. Look for the Balize. Vote PNM for stability, for democracy, for your children's future, ladies and gentlemen, and for a caring government. Because, ladies and gentlemen, great is the PNM, and it shall prevail. Thank you. Thank you.
We go vote them out, we go vote them out, we go vote them out. Let we stand up and shout, we go vote them out, we go vote them out. Who you voting for? PNM. Who you voting for? PNM. Who you voting for? PNM. Who you voting for? It's PNM. We go vote them out, we go vote them out, we go vote them out. Let we stand up and shout, we go vote them out, we go vote them out.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it one more time for a very important member of the winning team, Dr. Linda Baboolal. I would like you to extend a warm welcome to the chairman of the People's National Movement, Dr. Lenny Seth. A father of 5 children, our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, can boast of having always interacted with large numbers of people, having been actively involved in radio broadcasting for the last 20 years. He has been politically active since 1977, and his passion for politics led him to rejoin the People's National Movement in 1987. He has held membership of the JCs and Lions clubs in South Trinidad and has had deep involvement in many community projects and social activities wherever he resided. Ladies and gentlemen, we pause to welcome our brothers and sisters from along the east-west corridor, coming in a candlelight procession here to join us in the Quasi. So to keep things moving, ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the PNM's candidate for the Caroni East constituency, a brilliant orator. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the microphone Mr. Vijay Seukeran.
When Mona came to power, we talked like friends. They made endless promises they never maintained. They said Trinidad will now be a paradise. No more vagrants in town, they make me sing songs so nice. But that was only politics, full of low taxes and old tricks. They don't get the vote for the pressure up to its vote. They make me bad just judging, with PNM ungratefully. But since they take over, we really see who don't see. I vote in PNM, I vote in PNM, I vote in PNM, and it's mixed banana and them. We go vote them out, we go vote them out, we go vote them out. Well, we stand up and shout, we go vote them out, we go vote them out. Who you voting for? PNM. Who you voting for? PNM. Who you voting for? Who you voting for? It's E&M. We go vote them out, we go vote them out, we go vote them out. Yeah, we stand up and shout, we go vote them out, we go vote them out. Well, you see them too big for them boy and them. We go leave all of them standing up.
Mr. Chairman, Party Chairman Dr. Lenny State, Dr. Linda Baboolal, Dr. Keith Rowley, members of the head table, ladies and gentlemen, when I saw the candles initially, I thought that perhaps the election was called today and the Requiem Mass was being held for the NAR. But after 5 years of NAR rule, it seems as though that even at night, the PNM must come back to light the way once again. My friends, let me first of all bring greetings from the constituency of Caroni East, where for the past 3 months the PNM has been on a campaign challenging one of the most powerful men in the NAR today. And today, just 1 week before the election, I can say to all of Trinidad and Tobago, and I can say to all our friends here tonight, that Dr. Tiwari has already been defeated. Ladies and gentlemen, as we approach December 16th, what are we voting for? Are we voting merely for political party, or are we voting for our country? Ladies and gentlemen, for 30 years, it was the dream of a political party to bring to a country nationhood and a sense of national pride and dignity. For 30 years, the people of this nation walked the streets with their heads held high. And wherever you saw them, there was a smile on their face, because they said to the world, I'm a Trini, and I am proud of it. Throughout the world, there were people from this nation, both Trinidadians and Tobagonians, that walked the streets of some of the most populous metropolises across the world. And right here, we knew that we were people. We knew that this was our land. And then, in 1986, a group of men and women banded themselves together and came to this country with a promise of a brighter tomorrow. 5 years have gone. My question to you, how you feel? 5 years, how you feel? My friends, in those 5 years, it is not for we, the politicians, who stand in opposition to the NAR, to tell you what the NAR has done to this country. It is for you, the people who know what has happened. And that is why, on December 16th, you shall deliver your final indictment against the NAR and vote them out of office. Because it is not just that, but in the 5 years, you have sold the soul of this nation, and our people stand today without a soul. That is the greatest indictment. That, my friends, is the greatest indictment against the present government of Trinidad and Tobago. They spoke of one love. They spoke of unity. They spoke of bringing people together. And all they have done in 5 years is divide my people even more. They have divided them, and not divided them only along racial lines, but they have instilled in their minds that if you do not hold a party card, you are not privileged to anything. You have come and you have not created employment. In the final surge towards the election, you have employed people to win votes. You have not employed people to feed them. But the greatest indictment against you is that you know that you have made my people barebacked and hungry. And that is why today you believe that if you give them a party card and a basket of food, they will vote for you. You know what you have done. But you can take the shirt off a man's back, and you can even make his stomach ache in hunger. But you will never take away his will to live and his will to survive, and you will never take away what our people feel. No matter what you do, you cannot do it. And that is why, my friends, that is why a lot of our people today feel totally enslaved because of a system that has been introduced upon them. But they must understand this, that a free people will always be a free people. And the people of this country have understood what it is to live under the yoke of oppression, what it is to live under the yoke of lies and miseries and promises. And that is why the manifesto of the PNM does not give you promises to be completed in 90 days or 120 days, but it is a manifesto that gives you policies that say, let's begin to rebuild our country once again. Let us bring back our land to what we know it used to be. Today, there are other political parties, although I still maintain that there are groups of people who band themselves to fight the election. But the only true political party in this country is the People's National Movement. What greater party can you find? In 1986, 33-3, and in 1991, it is as though Dr. Williams has come up from the Gulf of Paria to bring his party back. And it will be done. It will be done. Because this is God's land, and as they say, thy will be done. These are the people that have banded themselves, especially for the election. They come together and they know that they will not defeat the PNM. So what do? They go back to the people. And the message that they have been bringing them since the 60s, they bring it back to them in 1991. They tell them all sorts of fancy words of discrimination, alienation, and struggle. But I say to any man who has been struggling for 15 years, if you are still struggling, you are struggling for something that does not exist, or what you are struggling for is purely in your mind. It is not there. It is not there. because my people want to move forward. And I say, as I've always said when I stand on a PNM platform, I copy the words of my Rasta brother, I man under the PNM, forward in. No time to look back. We don't have the time to look back. There are loyalties. There are loyalties. And the question of who is discriminated against, etc. It was Adolf Hitler that said, if you tell a people a lie long enough, it becomes a truth. So what you have done is you have enslaved my people. You have enslaved them into thinking that they cannot progress. And I say to those who wish to do that, as Moses said to Pharaoh, I say to them, let my people go. Let my people go and let them breathe again. Let the flowers of this nation surely get the chance to bloom again. Ladies and gentlemen, they wanted their chance. They got their chance. They said after 30 years of PNM rule, give us a chance. I know that the second chance they are asking for, that gone. They have their chance. And it is as though destiny itself has said, it was PNM that took us out of colonialism, that brought us into independence, into republicanism, that brought us from shacks to mansions, from donkey carts to carts. And it is destiny itself that says it is time for the PNM to come back. You took us out of the past, and now you must take us into the future. There is no question about that. There is no doubt about that. And whether they say he is 43 years old, whether they say he only looks like a leader, with 20 years experience in government, with God in his heart and his mind in the right place, Patrick Manning is the right leader for this country. And let them understand that. My friends, as I say in my own constituency, 1991 is not for you. When you cast your vote, it is not for you. When you wake up on election morning, before you go out to the polls, I ask you, my friends, to say a prayer. To say a prayer. And then look into the innocent face of your child and say, my child, this one is for you. This one, my child, is for you. Because, my friends, 5 years from today, your 5-year-old child will be 10. Your 8-year-old child will be 13. Out of primary into secondary school. Out of secondary school into university. Out of university into the employment market. Don't look at your child for today. Think ahead for the 5 years to come. And say once again, say it after me, my child, this one is for you. And in closing, my friends, I have issued the invitation and I ask you the question. When the PNM retains the government of Trinidad and Tobago, are we leaving the dragon on the Red House? In case they didn't hear, I am asking you again, are we leaving it? Well, then we have sent a clear message. We have sent a clear message throughout this land, but above all, We have sent a clear message, and I am not in any way disrespecting anybody. They said this is their name. We have sent a clear message to Chief Olokun Igbaro that we are coming back. Thank you very much, my friends. A Merry Christmas and a bright and prosperous PNM 1992.
An apology for the PNM. Tell Georgia sorry for voting on them. Somehow I believe I make
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it one more time for Mr. Vijay Seukeran. And we move on, ladies and gentlemen. He is a member of the Geological Society of Trinidad and Tobago and the author of many published scientific papers in the field of geology, geochemistry, and seismology. He was appointed to the Senate in 1987. He is an intense political debater who emerged as one of the giants in the Senate between the years 1987 and 1990. He holds the position of Deputy Political Leader, Party and Election Matters. I invite to the microphone, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker, the candidate for the constituency of Diego Martin West, the fiery and factual Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley.
But what really get me so vexed is when they sell out to IMF and the whole of the nation sucking Google bell. About him. Snakes banana and them. We go vote them out, we go vote them out, we go vote them out. Like we stand up and shout, we go vote them out, we go. Who you voting for? Who you voting for? Who you voting for? Who you voting for is PNM. We go vote them out, we go vote them out, we go vote them out. Where we stand up and shout, we go vote them out, we go. When none came to power, was sweet talk like rain. Made endless promises they never maintained. They said Trinidad will now be a paradise. No more vagrants in town, they make the things sound so nice. But that was only politics, full of road dodges and old tricks. They don't get the vote now with pressure up to its vote. They make me bad dog charging, with PNM ungratefully. But since they take over, we really see who don't see.
Mr. Chairman, Party Chairman Dr. Lenny said, the Mayor of Port of Spain, Mr. Augustus Williams, Dr. Linda Baboolal, the PNM's outstanding candidate for the Socorro constituency, Mr. Vijay Seukeran, the next MP for Caroni East, ladies and gentlemen of Barataria and surrounding areas. I have only a few minutes to talk to you tonight because we have a similar sized crowd waiting at another venue for the PNM. But I want to start tonight by doing something that I don't normally do, and that is to agree with the NAR. I got a document circulated by this party, which forms the government, and the document states that the issues in this election are performance and leadership. I want to tell you, I am in total agreement with that. performance and leadership, let us make those the issues on December 16th. Because I have absolutely no doubt whatsoever that once you make those the issues, on a scale of 1 to 10, the ruling party stands a good chance of scoring a naught. Ladies and gentlemen, the PNM comes to you in 1991 and presents to you a slate of candidates and a manifesto. Many of you would have recalled in your presence in Woodford Square, the PNM presented to you a manifesto a matter of days after the general election was announced. I don't want you to get the impression that we went out and wrote a manifesto after the election was announced. In fact, the manifesto of the PNM has been in the making for over 2 years. And as prepared as we were in a position that as soon as they take basket and call the election, the PNM was ready. What you see in the manifesto, I don't want you to get the impression that it is the PNM's idea alone. Because many of you would have recalled that in 1987 the PNM took steps to authorize the political leader to consult outside of the party on matters of policy. Because in the PNM, we believe that the PNM has no monopoly on ideas and talent. So what you see in the PNM manifesto is the distilled opinion, ideas and analysis of the talent from inside the PNM and experts outside the PNM who've been working with the party during the 5 years that we were in the opposition. And this manifesto comes to you after a vetting by the PNM's policy committee, its central executive, and its convention of delegates. This is the behavior and the work of an organized, serious political party. It also came to you so you could have scrutinized it for the entire period of the build-up to the elections. We didn't treat you with contempt like the ruling party. Present to you 36 candidates. No manifesto. They go to San Fernando, Port of Spain, Chaguanas, Arima, Scarborough. No manifesto. They're asking you once again to buy cat and bag. And only a matter of a few days before the general election, some individual wrote something and they presented to you in St. Augustine. I asked you, whose manifesto is that? And does that bind that party? The Prime Minister was reading it for the first time the night in St. Augustine. But the PNM's manifesto binds every member of the PNM from political leader down because it came to you through the normal channels of an organized, serious political party. That is how we come to you and ask for your support. And then, in the PNM's manifesto, we have a number of initiatives. Some of them new, some of them adjusted, and some of them time-proven policies. In the energy section of a manifesto, you will see the PNM on page 20 of this manifesto saying, in recognition of the fact that the future of this country no longer lies in oil, but in gas, because the PNM, being the serious political party that we are, we recognize that our oil reserves are now down to 450 million barrels. And whereas 10 years ago, the Trinidad and Tobago was producing as much as 200,000 barrels of oil per day, today we are producing just about 140,000. In fact, many of you may not know that in the last year, oil production in this country has been falling by approximately 12,000 barrels per day. The government will not tell you that, but those are the facts. However, we do have natural gas reserves to last us for another 100 years. So the future of this country lies in natural gas. So in the PNM's manifesto, you will see the PNM saying that we will pass a Natural Gas Act separate and apart from the Petroleum Act. And one of the components of that Natural Gas Act will be a pricing policy which will be established and made public. The reason for that is that we want all the present users to know the basis on which their supply will continue into the future. And that includes TNTEC. And that affects you, the user of TNTEC's power. And that includes potential investors from wherever they are over the world who can see our pricing policy on natural gas and determine whether they want to come here and invest at all. And of course, in the manifesto we say we will want to guarantee a supply to TNTEC under terms and conditions that will allow TNTEC to supply the population with electricity at an affordable rate. The PLM's manifesto comes out on Sunday evening, the 24th of November. And the following day, the NAR government goes to the Hilton Hotel and signs a contract with Amoco to supply natural gas for 20 years. So first they have no manifesto, no policy on natural gas, but within hours of a PNM position on the future of this country, they go and sign a contract for 20 years when there is no parliament in the country. Not a question can be asked. And then they come to you and they tell you they want another 5 years. That is performance their style. Performance their style. No parliament in session, but you sign a contract with Amoco for 20 years. And the head of that government is the same prime minister who, a few years ago, accused Amoco of wanting to have a monopoly on our energy resources. He gave Amoco that monopoly on November 25th when he signed that contract. Because he has now made Amoco our largest supplier of oil and our largest supplier of gas in 1996. He has guaranteed that. And he also made statements about the Trinidad gas project, the Trinidad and Tobago gas project, which he labeled as the flagship of our economic independence. Under his government, that project has now become a total failure, and as a result of that failure, he had to go and sign that contract with Amoco to guarantee a supply of natural gas. That is performance, their style. So they want to talk performance, that is their kind of performance. Sell the country down the drain, bungle everything, and then come to you in an election season and try and hype you that everything is fine, everything is wonderful. And what I'm saying here to you did not begin last week or last month. This government from day one behaved as though it was a crime for this country to have energy. So the PNM was making maximum use of energy. And they had all kinds of things to say about it. So they came into office and the Ministry of Energy was a pariah. You had 3 ministers of energy in one period. First you had Mr. Ramnath. Then he was fired. Then the Ministry of Energy was tacked on to the Ministry of Labor. So it read Ministry of Labor, Manpower and Energy as an afterthought. And then when the present Minister of Energy won the award of Non-Achiever of the Year, you make him Minister of Energy. So it is no accident that in year 5, we are forced to go and sign a contract with Amoco that puts us in a position that we do not know, but the shareholders of Amoco are smiling all the way to the bank in America. And this is the government that promised you open government. Open government, but only the cabinet knows the terms and conditions of that 20-year contract to Amoco. That is performance, their style. You give them the country to run. They appoint a Minister of National Security. He brings the army from Tetron to Mukarapo. And the next thing you know, while they are there, the country burned down, the parliament blew up, half all nearly get killed, and that is performance, their style. That is performance, NAR style. And when 71% of the country says you must fire that minister for failing to secure the nation, you promote the minister and give him 2 assistants. And as if that was not the end of it, you know the rest of it. So when they say the issues are performance, yes, the issues are performance. And I want your verdict tonight. What mark would you give this government, pass or fail? You are the voters, you scoring the marks, not me. I'm not scoring the marks. But it's the question of leadership. It is the question of leadership that I want to deal with tonight. Because you have seen for yourself their performance in national security. You have seen their performance in health. You have seen their performance in education. You have seen their performance in foreign affairs. Where they go down to Venezuela, the Venezuelan Navy draws a map giving away 2,000 square miles of our ocean territory. The Prime Minister signs it. It took us 1 year to get them to admit that that requires the intervention of the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. You're fixing the boundary of this country for all times with a foreign country. And you admit in the end that it must come to Parliament. The Parliament has been dissolved. That treaty has never come to Parliament, but they're coming to you now to ask you for another 5 years. If you give them another 5 years, what are they going to give away this time? Sejos? Tobago? Chakashakari? No government that has treated its population with such contempt deserves even 1 vote out of sympathy. None. But then, having that kind of performance in areas of governmental activity, they come to you. They have nothing to tell you that you could or should believe. So they're seeking all kinds of diversions. Imagine in the face of all the issues in this country, public debt at 16 billion, IMF problems, IADB problems, World Bank problems. What does the Prime Minister talk about when he asks you for another 5 years? What does he talk about? And this is why I have problems with the leadership. Every night he goes out to talk. He talks about the July 1990 coup. Every night. But I'm instructing my colleagues here now that nobody on a PNM platform will respond to this after I respond here now. Because this is the only time that the PNM responds to that from here on in. I was in Washington during the coup, and I heard this Prime Minister talking to a foreign journalist on a live radio hookup via telephone. And he was telling the world via that hookup, which was broadcast on Washington radio, that I have already agreed to resign. We have an agreement. I am looking for Colonel Brown to come and take us out now. I have called the Hilton Hotel, I called Camp Ogden, and I can't find them. And I'm asking you if you can help me find my cabinet. That was the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. When I came back to Trinidad a month later, all of a sudden, that turned around to attack with full force. And by election day, by today's Express, listen to what the Prime Minister would have this country believe. And I want to read to you from today's Express. The rate of rhetoric that the PNM was engaging in and its association with SOPO contributed to the July 27 coup. Well, I always said, when Mr. Manning appointed me, he appointed me to the opposition. He didn't tell me to go and praise the government. He is accusing the PNM of having an association with SOPO. The truth of the matter, which was made public at the time, was that SOPO invited the PNM to a meeting. The PNM, at the level of its central executive and general council, considered the matter and made a statement that we do not intend to have that meeting. And we had no such meeting. So the PNM party had no association with SOPO. And the Prime Minister knows that. He goes on to say, the PNM's General Secretary, Maurice Marshall, was a man. In the face of all the problems in this country, the Prime Minister is seeking to go into another 5 years, and his issue is to call on Mr. Manning to bring back Privat. Let me answer that. The bringing back of Mr. Privat is not Mr. Manning's work. That was the work of the NAR, because Mr. Privat left this country after the NAR came into office. And if Mr. Robinson knows something about Mr. Privat, which warrants his bringing back, Mr. Robinson and Mr. Privat's nephew, Mr. Richardson, should have bring back Privat. So once again, they've fallen down on the job, because that is a job that they identify as a job to be done. But since he's so concerned about public funds, which he presumed that Privat took, I am saying that there is no more public fund than the NIB funds. Because NIB money is poor working class man money. Every month a little akada going in there. And $3 million of it was given to a lawyer in trust. And that lawyer had it end up in a company called Eastal in Arima. The money was used for private gain. Justice Dayal Singh had to rule on the matter, and so serious was the matter that Justice Dayal Singh struck off Dale Robinson from the list of barristers in this country. That is the Prime Minister's niece. And Justice Dayal Singh instructed that the matter be passed to the Director of Public Prosecution for criminal action. This Prime Minister, who is calling on Mr. Manning to bring back Privat, has been here for 5 years. I want to ask him tonight, what action did you take to carry out Justice Dayal Singh's instruction? What we do know is that that person, who happens to be his niece, has come into this country and did her business and walked back out under this Prime Minister. And I'm not telling you about allegation and scandal. I am telling you about the proceedings of the Court of Trinidad and Tobago. So if the Prime Minister is so concerned, as he professes to be, about bringing back fugitives, they say charity begins at home. Bring back your own. And get off the PNM back. We're sick and tired of all of this. I'm sick and tired of the attempt to paint the PNM party as worse than ever. I'm sick and tired of the attempts, the lies, the deception, the hypocrisy. This country deserves better. And come 1991, the people of this country must take action to prevent these kinds of things from residing in the corridors of power. You don't deserve that. In the PNM, we present candidates to you based on a program of activities that we believe are analyses of the problems, assessment of the resources of the country, and our programs are workable. In a manifesto, you don't have your name and your street name or your house number. It has broad policies about where the government will go if you elect the party who presents the manifesto to you. So in this manifesto, you will also see a team of candidates. None of them has been engaged in the giving out of 10 days and the handing out of food baskets and saying who must work and who mustn't work. The PNM's candidates have been selected on the basis of proven track record, competence, and the potential to function at the highest level in the land. So when you go out there in Nariva And the PNM presents to you a Farmer of the Year for 3 years running in the murder of Faiz Khan. The NAR presents to you Taran Suklal of Lid. And when you come to St. Joseph and the PNM presents to you our deputy political leader, Augustus Ramreka Singh, the NAR presents to you Carson Charles, the King of Lid. As you would have heard this week, Lid has swallowed up the Ministry of Works. The tail eat the dog. And when you come to the next constituency, right here in South Barataria, and we give you the outstanding Dr. Linda Baboolal, they give you somebody else from Lid. And you go down to Laventille East, and we give you the proven banker and community server in Ken Collis. They give you another officer from Lid. And we give you Maurice Marshall in Laventille West, and they give you another officer from Lid. And we give you in Port of Spain South the most decorated person in Trinidad and Tobago, holder of a Hummingbird Medal, a Shakonia Medal, a Trinity Cross, and we give you Jean Pierre. They give you somebody else from Lid. And you come to David Martin Central, and we give you Ken Valley, an outstanding expert in finance. They give you the crybaby from Lid. So I want you to understand something. I want you to understand something. That is the basis on which they intend to get your vote. All of their candidates come out of the Lid program. So the idea is, start it for 3.5 or 4 years. When you're hungry enough, they give you a 10 days and they give you a food basket and expect you to vote for them. I say to you tonight, do not prostrate yourself in front of them. Do not humble yourself with no 10 days for no vote. December 16th, I heard him saying that the polls, he's not carried away by the polls. I'm saying to him, it is not the poll of this weekend that will carry him away. It is the poll on December 16th that will wash this blight away. Leadership, you want to lead this country, you get 33 seats, and 1 week before an election, you're calling up every radio station, every paper in the country to try and plant slander and modeling and rumor to attack the PNM. Today I had 3 calls today from editors seeking to deal with things they're trying to plant in the press to tarnish characters of PNM candidates. That is how they intend to win the election. And talk about lie. It seems as though they have cranked up the lying machine for the election. All government officers, including the Attorney General, they are now experts in school feeding. Because all of them now talking about what wonderful things they are doing in the school feeding program, and that it was the PNM that closed down the school feeding program. You see this? My mailbox receives all kinds of things. You see this? Report on visit. School Nutrition Company. Let me tell you what the menu was. Hold on. We have some time. On the 14th of the 1186, at a certain kitchen in the school feeding program, the menu was stew chicken, split peas, rice, and cucumber salad. That's the 14th of the 11th. On the 18th of the 11th was chicken franks in tomato sauce, macaroni and cheese, and carrots. Balanced meal following from cycle, cooking and boxing operations, good and so and so. This was taking place On the 25th of the 11th, the report says, in good state of welfare, satisfactory. Menu, stewed red beans, Spanish rice, pumpkin and carrots. 25th of the 11th, 86. When the devil did the PNM close down the school feeding program, the PNM left office on the 15th of December after school closed. So if up to November 25th, you were having kitchens operating and providing menu, I asked the Prime Minister and his cabinet of untruth speakers, when did the PNM close down the school feeding program? Of course, it was closed down for the Christmas holiday. And in the meantime, the dragon appeared and the children's lunch went bye-bye. But they will have you believe that the economy has turned around too. And they have their programs on radio and television telling you all kinds of nonsense. And they have their friends coming to back them up. I want to read for you tonight what a chairman of a major local bank reported to his board and his membership. Listen to it. And this is not the PNM talking. This is a chairman, a managing director of a major local bank talking about the conditions in Trinidad and Tobago. And this was only a few months ago. And he says, an overall decline in the performance of the non-oil sector was observed. The non-oil sector is where they spent the 4 years doing all kinds of things. He is reporting here an overall decline in the non-oil sector. Here, value added fell by 1.5% from 1989 levels. Contributing to this decline was the government sector, where growth of 0.3% in 1989 was reversed to a decline of 2%, and the other service sectors, where growth of 1.1% in 1989 similarly became a decline of 0.6% in 1990. The distribution sector accelerated its decline from 5.8% in 89. The distribution sector had an accelerated decline from 5.8% in 89 to 14% in 1990. And I pause to welcome the political leader of the People's National Movement, Mr. Patrick Manning.
We want PNM again.
Thank you for that refreshing pause. The political leader of the only real political party in Trinidad and Tobago, the 35-year-old People's National Movement, your movement. But let's get back to the misinformation. I was telling you that the decline in the distribution sector was from 5.8% in '89 to 14.3% in 1990. Economy turning around, eh? He goes on to say, and we were talking here about a major managing director in a major bank talking about our economy. He goes on to say, unemployment remains a source of worry, while unsubstantiated data reveal a 1.6% decline to 20.4%. This was due in part to a reduction in the number of persons actively seeking jobs, as well as a small reduction in the labor force due to migration. That is how the unemployment fallen. People are running away from this country, going abroad and declaring themselves refugees, while the chief is inviting other people's refugees. And then, what is more frightening? After all of this, the election season, the government and its friends, they are seeking to put you in the position to feel as though everything is in place, and it's only another 5 years now for things to get going fine. Hear what the managing director of the major local bank had to say. For 1992, the specter of the large debt payments and the potential drain on our foreign reserves looms once more. This element has the potential to stall the expected economic growth. So here is the managing director of a local bank telling his boardroom about the expected economic growth. It reached the Prime Minister already, because he is already talking about 2.7% growth. I want to ask the Prime Minister tonight, where did he get that figure? There has been no growth in the economy of Trinidad and Tobago in any 1 year under this government. Yet in an election season, the Prime Minister is talking about 2.7% growth, seeking to have your vote by subterfuge and downright half-truths and naked lies. But I say to you tonight, you are the ones who live the lives. You live here. You know what goes on here. And you're voting on that basis, not on the basis of promise. After 5 years of darkness, those who gave you darkness cannot offer you a brighter tomorrow. Only the PNM can do that. Thank you and good night.
But since they take over, we really see who don't see. About them PNM, about them PNM, about them PNM, and it's mixed banana and them. We go vote them out, we go vote them out, we go vote them out. Where we stand up and shout, we go vote them out, we go vote them out. Who you voting for?
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it one more time for a deputy political leader of the People's National Movement, Dr. Keith Rowley. And while you are in a welcoming mood, I want you to welcome to this meeting for the constituency of Laventille East Mova, Mr. Kenneth Collis. For the constituency of Port of Spain South, Mrs. Jean Pierre. A graduate of the University of the West Indies with a Bachelor of Arts degree, he has been teaching at Naparima College for the past 17 years. He has also been extensively involved in cultural activities and has served his country in this area for the past 25 years. He is one of the country's leading dramatists, has written and directed over 20 plays, and has won numerous awards at the national level in acting, directing, writing, and producing. He has also had a very successful television career and was host of 2 successful programs of high quality, Book Talk and Cross Country. He has also had a significant measure of administrative experience. He has been the artistic director of the San Fernando Drama Guild for the past 16 years and was president of the National Drama Association for 3 consecutive terms. He served as a member of the board of the Trinidad and Tobago Television for 4 years. Let us welcome our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, the dynamic, energetic, creative, intelligent Mr. Ralph Maraj.
Who you voting for? PNM. Who you voting for? PNM. Who you voting for? Who you voting for? We go vote them out, we go vote them out, we go vote them out. Yeah, we stand up and shout, we go vote them out, we go. All you see them too big for them boy and them. We go leave all of them standing up. Trinidadians are poor people as we all know. Now we all over the world begging lodging for soap. This nana has brought this nation down on its knees. She will now see Trinidadians as refugees. Engineers want to lose their jobs and nurses in Arabia. Our teachers working in kitchens in Canada. This nana is a disgrace, like they want to mash up the place. But come election time.
Are we supporting the PNM here tonight? So let us sound the war cry, ladies and gentlemen, as we have done throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Let us sound it this Monday before next Monday's general election. The war cry. Repeat after me so that Robinson can hear it wherever he is. Repeat after me. No NAR. Not anymore NAR. Move out NAR. Welcome PNM. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Give yourselves a round of applause. I hope Robinson hear that tonight. I hope Robinson know that the real chief come in. The real boss come in. Robinson move out, clear the way. Patrick Manning come in. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Chairman of the People's National Movement, Dr. Lenny Seth, the political leader of the PNM, Mr. Patrick Manning, my other colleagues at the head table, ladies and gentlemen, family and friends of Trinidad and Tobago. I am indeed very honored to be here tonight to speak once more on a People's National Movement platform. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you one thing, that whenever I approach this task of speaking on this political platform, I feel almost as though I am on holy ground. Holy ground, ladies and gentlemen. That is what the PNM is and means to me, and that is what the PNM means to Trinidad and Tobago. That is why wherever you go, all over the country, in my own constituency and elsewhere, you hear people saying, I born a PNM, I go dead a PNM. What does it mean, ladies and gentlemen? It means simply that between the PNM and the people, there is a rich psychological connection, there is a deep emotional link between the people and a party that came to liberate them. The PNM is a liberator, ladies and gentlemen. The PNM is the transformer, transforming this country from a colonial backwater that we were in 1956, ladies and gentlemen, to the point where by 1986 we were a prosperous, thriving democracy capable of handling ourselves with confidence and certainty into the 21st century. That is the achievement of the People's National Movement. Ladies and gentlemen, we, the historically dispossessed people of Trinidad and Tobago, we were the crumbs of the society. We were the dregs of the society in that colonial era before the arrival of the PNM. And I see another historic arrival here. I see the PNM St. Joseph coming onto the scene with their flags and so on. And let us welcome another deputy political leader of the PNM and the next representative for St. Joseph, Mr. Augustus Ramreka Singh.
This nana has brought this nation down on its knees. We will now see Trinidadians as refugees. Engineers, consolation, doctors and nurses in Arabia. Our teachers working in kitchens in Canada. This nana is a disgrace, like they want to mash up the place. But come election time is mixing the race. About them PNM, about them PNM, about them PNM, and it's mixed for nana and them. We gon' vote them out, we gon'
A great scene, ladies and gentlemen.
We gon' vote them out, we gon' vote them out. Who you voting for? PNM. Who you voting for? Who you voting for? Who you voting for? We go vote them out, we go vote them out, we go vote them out. Like we stand up and shout, we go vote them out, we go vote them out.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for acknowledging the arrival of the constituency of St. Joseph. Ladies and gentlemen, you who have been enduring the suffering, the deprivation, the poverty and the cruelty of the last 5 years, you have experienced it, ladies and gentlemen. You know it deep in your heart what you have been feeling. At this point in time, it is incumbent upon us who are presenting ourselves as PNM candidates to give you an idea of how we feel about this whole business of representation of the people. The whole business of representation, ladies and gentlemen, is based on service as far as the PNM is concerned. I want to tell you all this very important thing, that when we win the general elections, and we are going to win, there is no doubt about that. All the signs are showing it. They are getting desperate. They are seeing the signs of their own desperation emanating all over. I want to make this very important point, that when we win this election, the PNM will not see it as a PNM victory. We are going to see it as a victory of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, the PNM sees itself as an instrument of the political will of the people. And when the victory is won, it will be the responsibility of the PNM to return that victory back onto the people. That is where we are coming from. You are seeing us as an instrument of that victory. We will consolidate your triumph by serving you well, because as the political leader has emphasized all the time, service to the constituents is going to be a main concern of the People's National Movement. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, and with that kind of approach, ladies and gentlemen, we are convinced that especially We announce the arrival, ladies and gentlemen, of Mrs. Erica Williams Connell. Let's hear a round of applause for the daughter of the founder of the nation, the father of the nation, and the founder of the PNM. The mood is right. You can't get away from it, ladies and gentlemen. You can't get away from it. We are not going just for 5 years more, you know. Not at all. I want to announce here today that I am convinced that the PNM is headed for another long distance run into the future. You feel it throughout the country, especially since the population has had a chance to compare governments, ladies and gentlemen. You have had a chance to compare 30 years of constructive governments, 30 years of monumental transformation, as opposed to 35 years of ad hocism, improvisation, incompetence, generated growth. They are only thinking of the private sector at one level of the society. For the PNM, as you would see in our manifesto, we define private sector to mean from the doubles vendor to the shoemaker, to the store owner, to the snow cone vendor, right up to the conglomerate, ladies and gentlemen. The PNM is once more going to ensure that there is democracy in the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. The PNM is once more going to ensure that there is distributive justice in the economy of Trinidad and Tobago. And the PNM, as seen in our manifesto, has already laid out plans to ensure that once more the people are brought into the mainstream of activity. The signs are clear before us. In spite of having spent this amount of money, you have a middle class in Trinidad and Tobago, a middle class, ladies and gentlemen, which was once very vibrant and dynamic and productive and creative. A real gift that the PNM handed to the NAR in 1986, because the burdens that had to be borne were inequitably placed on the shoulders of the people at the middle and the lower level. Ladies and gentlemen, you have had stagnation and collapse of that very vibrant middle class. People have lost their homes, lost their jobs, had to give up their cars, had to seek refugee status, face the humiliation of that status in foreign lands. And at the lower levels of the society, among the lower income groups, we have the very frightening situation in Trinidad and Tobago, where for the very first time since our independence, we have the emergence of what sociologists call the underclass in this country. 20% of the population now living below the poverty line. Almost 220,000 people in this country today who do not know where their next meal is coming from, whose babies are drinking sugar water, ladies and gentlemen, whose children are undernourished and underfed, whose children cannot be educated properly, and who are living lives of desperation and despair. And in spite of all this, ladies and gentlemen, you hear government officers from the Prime Minister come down to the lesser mortals, all of them uttering these platitudinous statements about the politics of performance. You spent $35 billion. Your health services have collapsed. Your national security system has been so humiliatingly neglected that they cannot deal with the escalating crime rate. You have not built a single unit as compared to the 50,000 units that the PNM built. You have not built a single housing unit, and yet you come to talk about the politics of performance. Hollow words, ladies and gentlemen, as hollow as the party from which they came. The party has no core, it has no soul, it has no spirit. That is why, ladies and gentlemen, it has not been able to register any emotional or psychological connection with the people. It was not born out of the agony of the people as the PNM was born. Ladies and gentlemen, I must make way for the chief. I must make way for the chief. I want to tell you one thing, as I have been saying over and over. This election is a serious business. These people are not willing to give up the power so easily. It is your responsibility, and I want to tell you this, the night before election, sleep early, be sober, be sane. That day for election, get up early as though you're going to church. As though you're going to church. Because ladies and gentlemen, when you dip your hand for the balize on election day, it will be an act of prayer for the deliverance of Trinidad and Tobago. And with that same determination and that same kind of zeal and will, get to your polling station early. All PNM votes should be cast by 10 o'clock on election day. By 10 o'clock on December 16, PNM must have won the election already. Be infused with a sense of zeal, ladies and gentlemen. Be filled with a missionary purpose. Get to the polling station on your own as much as you can. Get there. We will try to provide cars and so on, but let it be your responsibility. Run, ride, or walk, ladies and gentlemen. Get to the polling station. Ensure that you vote for the PNM. Dip your finger deep in that ink after you mark your X for the balize. Dip your finger deep in the ink. Point the NAR into the dustbin forever. And point your country into a future of prosperity, stability, security for all of the people of Trinidad and Tobago under the People's National Movement. God bless you all, ladies and gentlemen. God bless Trinidad and Tobago. God bless the People's National Movement, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Trinidadians are poor people, as we all know. Now we all over the world begging, lodging for soap. This nana has brought this nation down on its knees.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it one more time for the candidate for San Fernando West. The next representative for San Fernando West, Mr. Ralph Maraj. And it is my responsibility, ladies and gentlemen, to ask you once more to welcome to this meeting our Deputy Political Leader for Legislative Matters, Mr. Dr. Augustus Ramrekasing. And ladies and gentlemen, the daughter of our founder, the father of the nation, Mrs. Erica Williams Connell. It is now time for the featured speaker this evening. His political career is a long and distinguished one. He entered Parliament in 1971 and served as Parliamentary Secretary in 5 ministries up to 1978. Between 78 and 86, he has held the portfolio of Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister and in the Ministry of Finance, in the Ministry of Information and in the Ministry of Industry and Commerce. He held responsibility, ladies and gentlemen, for Tobago in 1979. He became the country's first Minister of Energy and Natural Resources in 1981. He has acted as Minister of Labour, Social Security and Cooperatives, Minister of External Affairs, Minister of National Security, and Minister of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries. This year marks 20 years in public political life for our next speaker. He was undoubtedly the most experienced ministerial candidate in the last Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. A man of outstanding political experience, handpicked by the late great founding father of the nation, Dr. Eric Eustace Williams, to be a political giant on the local political stage. We present at this time, ladies and gentlemen, the captain of the winning team, our political leader and the candidate for San Fernando East, Mr. Patrick Augustus Mervin Manning.
PNM again. Rio Claro, all of Socorro people singing. We want PNM again. We don't want MAR. We don't want UNP. We don't want ONR. We don't want no new party. Everybody, we want PNM again. We want PNM again. We want PNM again. We want PNM again.
Mr. Chairman, Dr. Seth, our Chairman of the People's National Movement, daughter of our founding father, Mrs. Erica Williams Cornell, PNM candidates, party officers, party officials, this large mammoth crowd here in San Juan this evening. Monday, December the 16th is Liberation Day. That is the day that we will forsake the dragon and that we will seek to return Trinidad and Tobago to good government. Over the weekend, 3 polls have been published. All of them put the People's National Movement ahead. In fact, the St. Augustine Research Associates poll reversed a position that had been identified 3 weeks earlier, where yesterday, instead of being 8 points behind, the PNM is 4 percentage points ahead. And if it is, ladies and gentlemen, that with such consistency it is being predicted that the PNM can win the next elections, all right, Will. Then the People's National Movement has to carefully consider what will happen after December the 16th, 1991. One of the more urgent issues facing the country today is the state of industrial relations in Trinidad and Tobago. You may or may not know it, ladies and gentlemen, but the OWTU is negotiating at this time with every major company in the energy sector, Trintoc, Trintopec, National Petroleum, and also the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission. The WASA workers
are very restless. We have trouble in the prisons. The state of industrial relations in Trinidad and Tobago, ladies and gentlemen, leaves a lot to be desired. And you see, I am not surprised. I am not surprised that the trade union movement in the country is now seeking to use an opportunity available to it to get what they determine to be the just due for the workers. Cast your mind back to 1987, ladies and gentlemen. It was in that year, on the occasion of the first budget of the current government, that the cost of living allowance was taken away unilaterally, without consultation, illegally and unconstitutionally from a captive group of workers, the employees of the state. And no amount of protestation from either the PNM or the many other groups in the country who protested the action brought any sense into the corridors of power that the situation remained exactly as they had done it. 2 years later, ladies and gentlemen, the pickpocket government tried it again. On this occasion, they cut the salaries of the public sector workers by 10% without consultation, without negotiations, contrary to the law and contrary to the Constitution. And when the union said enough is enough, and they decided to test the matter in a court of law, the government used its huge majority in the parliament to pass with retroactive effect what otherwise would have been a most illegitimate act. And so they misused the parliament and frustrated the aspirations of the workers of Trinidad and Tobago. And when the time came to give back some of that money, because you see, after 2 years, the independent senators made it absolutely clear that they will not support any extension of that particular measure. The government called the trade union in and indicated that they wanted to give them something back. 5% was put on the table. The unions indicated that they were not prepared to negotiate for what was legitimately theirs. The government said 6, no talk. 7.3, 8.3. And the latest position of the government on that occasion was that we offer you 8.3%. That was all that the economy could withstand at that particular point in time. The unions walked out, and it is now a matter of record that a few days later, on the presentation of the annual budget, the government did exactly what it said the economy could not have sustained, and that was to give back the entire 10% of the salaries due to the workers. What does it mean, ladies and gentlemen? It means that even if before there was some slight suspicion, afterwards, the trade union movement came to the conclusion that they were dealing with a government that was entirely untrustworthy. If they tell you good morning, ladies and gentlemen, go home and put on your night clothes. Something ain't right. You cannot believe one word they say, and therefore it is no surprise to me that on the eve of a general election, where the government is most vulnerable, that the unions in the country are taking the position that if I am to get anything out of you, I must try you at a time when you are most vulnerable. Entirely brought about because a government felt that 33.3 was licensed to do as you like, to do what you like. What they did not understand, ladies and gentlemen, is that you may do what you like, but not for as long as you like. A judgment day always comes. And for this government, judgment day is Monday, December the 16th, 1991. If it is if it is that this country is to have an economic recovery, and if it is, ladies and gentlemen, that foreign investment must play the part that many believe it ought to play in the economic recovery of Trinidad and Tobago and sustaining the economy on a long-term basis, then a prerequisite to that has to be industrial peace and industrial harmony. And in those circumstances, the PNM makes a call recognizing, first of all, the tremendous forbearance of the workers in Trinidad and Tobago. The PNM makes the call, ladies and gentlemen, to forget the government in power. They are relevant only until next week, Monday. Forget them. Consider your country, ladies and gentlemen, and let us do nothing. Let us do nothing that will prejudice the peace and harmony and stability of sweet T&T. In 1986, what was the slogan? One love. That's what they advanced to the population. They convinced this population that within their hands there will be racial integration on a scale that is without precedence in Trinidad and Tobago. And indeed, the population accepted the point of view and voted them into office with an overwhelming majority. There are certain things that they clearly did not understand. In 1974, ladies and gentlemen, I had an opportunity to go to a country in the Pacific called Fiji. And I noticed in that year that that country, with a population similar to Trinidad and Tobago, at the time you had 48% native Fijians and 52% Fijians of Indian extract. I noticed a constitution in that country that gave political power in perpetuity to the native Fijians. And when I left a few days later, I concluded that here was a country that was heading down the road to some kind of destruction. And indeed, in 1986, following an election, there was a coup d'etat and courtesy cotela. We need not go into the details of that. I take you, ladies and gentlemen, to a country called Cyprus in the Mediterranean. That nobody in that country is a Cypriot. You are either a Greek Cypriot or a Turkish Cypriot. That's how they see themselves. And the conflict reached ahead when one of those countries walked into Cyprus some time ago, overthrew the government, partitioned the island. Greeks on one side, Turks on the next. I take you to Northern Ireland, where the difference is not race, the difference is religion. That you have Anglicans or you have Catholics and Protestant. And because somebody is a Protestant, he is the subject of attack by somebody who is not, or because somebody is a Catholic, he is the subject of attack by somebody of a different religious persuasion. What it has led to is the Irish Republican Army and a move to take Northern Ireland out of the Commonwealth of Great Britain and to associate it with the Republic of Ireland. Everybody knows about this. And the point that comes home to me, as indeed the point that has come home to many observers on the international scene, is that in countries in which you have differences among a people, that those differences always seem to conspire to divide rather than to unite. And so when you are dealing with a country as diverse as Trinidad and Tobago, you have to be extremely cautious in what you do and how you do it. You come in saying one love, but within 2 years, less than 2 years, not even a half love. And indeed, following those momentous events in the ruling party in 1988, racial tensions in this country have been exacerbated in a way that they have never been exacerbated before. The PNM says, ladies and gentlemen, that the future stability of this country can only take place in circumstances where there are harmonious race relations in the country. If it is that one group of our citizens believe that they are disadvantaged or deprived, then they are going to act in a manner that is consistent with that point of view. There was a recent study done by one of the lecturers at the University of the West Indies, which indicated that among the racial groups in the country, there is only one group that believes that it is not discriminated against. The reality is that the issue is a most emotional one, and that much of the discussion that takes place on this question of race relations will be discussions that are ill-informed, discussions that are based on emotion. And what the PNM says is that to be able to deal properly with this question of race relations, we must have a dispassionate study of exactly what the situation is, that you must constantly know what that is, and that you must use that dispassionate study as a basis for decision making. The PNM is committed in its manifesto to establishing at the University of the West Indies a Center for Ethnic Studies, an independent institution at the University of the West Indies, a seat of academic learning, where the academics can dispassionately study it, make the results of the study available to political parties, to the government, and to the national community. And that study will be used as a basis for decision making by the PNM. In that way, ladies and gentlemen, in that way, the PNM hopes to get to the core of what actually is involved in this whole question of race relations, and to begin to set that on an even keel. That's the PNM's position. The PNM categorically rejects any suggestion, as indeed one political party in this country has done, that you set up any race relations commission to go and prescribe before you know the ailment for which you are prescribing, can put you in a position where the last stage is far worse than the first. And more than that, to go and put institutions in place on a matter like race relations is to institutionalize race in Trinidad and Tobago. We want no part of it. Our approach is the most studied and cautious one. Our approach, ladies and gentlemen, is the approach that we are convinced is likely to bring Trinidad and Tobago this racial stability and harmony for which we all aspire. We are emerging from 5 years of a government that cannot speak the truth. I need hardly remind you of some of the major developments in this regard. You will remember the honorable gentleman talk. He's honorable. You're not accusing me of that. I call him the honorable gentleman. Going on television in the United States in 1988 or what it was, and hear the comment, "We will not devalue the currency." You remember it? As soon as he got back here, one of the first things he did was to devalue it. I draw to your attention another statement emanating from the honorable gentleman. Come hell or high water, we're not going to the IMF. You remember that? Not only have we gone to the IMF, ladies and gentlemen, but that we have had 2 standby facilities from that international institution. The fact is that you can't believe one word that the honorable gentleman says. And in fact, if you examine none of them, you're right. If you examine those statements, you will see that they do exactly the opposite to what they say they will do. And more than that, they have also this dangerous tendency of ascribing to others what they wish to do themselves. And so it is in that context you must view 2 statements that have come out recently. One, the PNM is going to devalue the TNT dollar. That's what is coming out from their platforms. That's what they have said. When you want to find out what the PNM will or will not do, ladies and gentlemen, my advice to you is don't depend on them. We have a manifesto in which our positions are clearly defined and outlined. And let me draw your attention to page 8 of the copy that I have. And what it says is, the PNM's ultimate aim is to liberalize exchange control. It's here. And depending on how you do that, as you liberalize exchange control, the risk that we can run, depending on how it is handled, is that the currency could appreciate rather than anything else. Don't depend on them, it's all here. It's all here. Secondly, I noticed an advertisement in the newspapers talking about the PNM will institute a turnover tax. Well, the very first time I heard of the term turnover tax was when I saw it in that newspaper. I don't know what it means. I have no interest in no turnover tax. The PNM knows nothing about that. We're not instituting no turnover tax. And more than that, what it represents is the kind of vicious and wicked and malicious propaganda for which the ruling party is now well known. I wouldn't be surprised if they're considering some turnover tax. Nothing to do with us. There are many who still say that they are not so sure of what are the major differences between the PNM and the ruling party. There is one major one, ladies and gentlemen, that I must draw to your attention tonight. And it is the whole economic approach. It is the whole approach to the economic management of this country. They were the ones who in 1987 said that they will institute this new economic approach that will bring about economic turnaround. What was it? We translate that into tangible policy in ways such as these. By putting in the safety net, by putting in a cushion against the worst effects of the economic recession into which the country had found itself. By doing that, you introduce a measure of caring in the government. And as people in the lower and lower middle income groups spend, as they spend, more economic activity is generated. And as economic activity is generated, among other things, it kickstarts the economy for actions in other areas, and the jobs that the country so desperately requires begin to be generated themselves. That's the PNM's approach. It is very clear. And if there is any difference, and there are many, I assure you, but one of the major differences between the PNM and the ruling party is the question of caring. The question, ladies and gentlemen, of viewing a population not just as statistics, that there are people with emotions and feelings and aspirations and children to send to school. That's what you have. That's the population. And you take no approach to fiscal management that says all that is important is to balance the budget and all things will be added unto you thereafter. That same dollars and cents approach, they took it in respect of law and order in this country. They are the ones who said that because law and order does not make a profit, that they are going to reduce the expenditure at a time, ladies and gentlemen, when unemployment is high. They were the ones who did that. And now they want to find out how the coup came. They're blaming the PNM. In fact, just let me spend a minute on that. Somebody asked, some one of them, I think it's the Attorney General, for the next week. Accuses me of engaging in discussions in July of 1990 or August of 1990 designed to set up an interim government. I wasn't in the Kankatan. I wasn't there. The discussions, ladies and gentlemen, were taking place inside the Parliament chamber, and they were led by the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, ably advised by Colo. You know who he is? Legal advice, advising the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago on those negotiations, and they want to say we were involved in it. I was not the one, ladies and gentlemen, who agreed. I was not the one who agreed that a minister of government should be released from the Red House to go outside and to form an interim government. I was not the one who agreed to that. and a minister was released for that purpose. In fact, when it came to my attention, I was the one on behalf of the PNM who put out a statement saying, I will have no part, and the PNM will have no part of any government that comes to power by any means other than the means of democracy. That's the PNM's position today. We fought the 1956 election, 61, 66, 71, 76, 81 and 86. All of those elections the PNM fought by the democratic process. We're going to come in 1990 and try to overthrow our government according to the gentleman. We want no part of it. The PNM remains committed to the preservation of democracy in our land, and we will take part in no arrangements that seek to bring about political or social change by means other than democratic ones. And so we go on, ladies and gentlemen. It is a caring society. It is a caring society that takes care of the aged. Persons who have made their contribution to the development of the society itself, and who, now that they are much older, and now that they are no longer physically able to contribute or to provide for themselves in a way that they would have done so many years before, now need whatever benevolence the state is able to make available to them. All our candidates have been instructed to go on a house-to-house campaign. All of them have done it. I have done it also. And in going around, that became very clear. That became very clear to me, ladies and gentlemen, as a consequence of which appropriate measures have found their way into a PNM manifesto, the only proper document of its kind in this general election, putting it out to the national community so that you can read and understand. Not only is the PNM committed to increasing the level of old age pensions, and by the way, they increase it by 5%, while they put on 15% VAT. And they expect people to fall for that. The PNM is committed to increasing the level of old age pensions. And the PNM is committed, ladies and gentlemen, as our manifesto says, to institute a new system for the dispensation of social services in the country that will, among other things, more properly and adequately deal with the requirements of the age. The PNM cares. Public utility rates. Public utility rates. There's an application right now, TNTEC, before the Public Utilities Commission. Lot of argument, ladies and gentlemen, as to what the rates should be, what increase there should be, and so on and so on. The PNM says that there is something fundamentally wrong with the rate structure of electricity at this time. As it now stands, the more electricity you use, the less you pay. The less you pay. Now that was all right in circumstances where the rates were generally lower and where the generation capacity in the country was twice what the electricity demand was, and so an incentive was put in the system to use more electricity. In the current economic circumstances, that approach is a counterproductive one. And what the PNM now says is that a system must go in for electricity charges that will ensure that small users of electricity have access to the particular utility at the lowest possible rates, and that for persons who would wish to use higher levels of electricity as a consequence of luxury items must be prepared to pay for it. What the PNM will do, therefore, is to instruct TNTEC to withdraw the application that is at this time before the Public Utilities Commission, and to replace it with a new application which will reflect this particular approach, and which, ladies and gentlemen, seeks, among other things, to minimize the charges for electricity that will accrue to those who are in the lower and lower middle income groups. That's the PNM's approach. That's the caring, ladies and gentlemen. of which the PNM speaks. And it's not just there. I could go on all night. Squatting, housing, is the only government in the world that has a housing policy that says you must not build any houses. In their 5-year tenure, they promised us 100,000 lots. We only have 2,000. They have not built one house. They have not even built one room in one house, and want to come back in 1991 and say that they have performed well. One good term deserves another. That's the approach. In every area of governmental activity, in every area, when you examine the record, the current government will be found wanting. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, we ask you to look at the only other alternative, the People's National Movement. In 1986, the day after the results of that election, when I took stock of the situation, I realized that something had gone radically wrong. That whatever we may have thought about the PNM, whatever we may have thought about the contribution of the PNM to the economic, political, and social life of this country, the citizens obviously were of a different view, and what they were saying was, you go into opposition, review yourselves, make adjustments, and put yourselves for the scrutiny of the public 5 years hence. If we like what we see, we are going to vote for you. If we don't like what we see, 5 more. And so that's what the PNM did. We began from scratch, ladies and gentlemen. We reviewed the principles on which the party was founded in the first place. The founding principles of the PNM, to see whether they were as relevant in 1987 as they were in 1956 when the party was formed. Yes, a convention reaffirmed its commitment to those principles, recognizing that they were likely to be relevant for many, many years into the future. We further reviewed the party's vision, a vision of 1956, replaced by a vision in 1970. On the occasion of the PNM going into opposition for the first time, we established a vision in 1987, the combination of vision and philosophy, forming the backdrop against which a complete review of all the policies for which the PNM ever stood took place, seeking, as we did, to confirm our beliefs in those policies that were working, and to replace those that were either not working or not working as well as we had anticipated when they had first been put in place. That exercise has gone on for the last 5 years. In seeking to come to policy positions, we have consulted not just members of the PNM, but that we have modified the party's constitution to officially countenance consultation with non-party members both at home and abroad. We've done that. And what has emerged are policy positions that have been informed by the best talent available to the PNM. And I put it to you, policy positions that are unequaled by any other political party in Trinidad and Tobago at this time. And that is the basis on which the PNM comes to you. We have the policies, ladies and gentlemen. We have identified a slate of candidates, 36 in all, representing the best talent available to the PNM at an elected level at this time. Those candidates are up for the scrutiny of the national community. In the constituency of Barataria, San Juan, the PNM's flag bearer is Dr. Linda Baboolal, who you know very well. Dr. Baboolal is popular here, so PNM candidates are popular all over the country. I have just come from a very successful meeting in the constituency of Aruka North in support of the PNM's candidate, Mr. Jarat Narain. And what started off as a small meeting, ladies and gentlemen, has emerged to be a very large audience by the time I left 45 minutes later. What you're seeing there, what you are seeing in Aruka North, is precisely what you are seeing here in El Socorro. It is precisely, ladies and gentlemen, what you are seeing in San Fernando East. It is precisely what you are seeing in Ottawa Mearo, in Diego Martin, in all parts of Trinidad and Tobago. There is no question about it. The PNM has come back. The population has examined us. The population will have a chance to adjudicate in the next few days. I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, not to be complacent. On election day, Monday, December the 16th, get up early, go to the polling station, run, ride, trot, do whatever you wish, get to the polling station, say a prayer. It is you, it is your conscience, it is the Almighty God. You cast your ballot for the PNM, and then you go home, you switch on your television set, and you wait for the declaration of Liberation Day. I thank you, and may God bless you all.
We want PNM again. Tunapuna, all Moruga people singing. We want PNM again. We don't want any art. We don't want UNC. We don't want ONR. We don't want no new